What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for December 10th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast. It is Tuesday. That means it's time for a little positivity / motivation. And today's quote comes from Zig Ziglar. And he who aims at nothing will hit it every time. And I think this is the perfect quote for the time of the year it is. Everybody is getting into the holiday flow. A lot of times you sort of just let things go because it's the end of the year. Hustle and bustle of holiday shopping and getting ready for the holidays and finishing out the work year and everything. But I think it's a good time to start reassessing where 2024 was for you and start looking ahead for 2025. I think what this quote is saying is you need to have goals. You need to have a vision. You need direction. And you need to go that way in order to get where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to know when you get there? How are you going to know where you're going? And I think it's always good to constantly reassess, adjust, things like that. I'm currently working on redoing, or I shouldn't even say redoing, just completing and making a mission statement for the podcast, sort of where do I want to go. 2024 was a big year for me. Lots of stuff with the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, lots of stuff with opportunities and different things like that. So I want to sit down, reassess, and clearly map out moving forward to 2025 where I want to go. I have some great ideas and everything, but I need to get that down on paper so I have something to aim at, as Zig Ziglar would say. But I think just in every aspect of your life right now, it's a great time of the year to start setting the tone for 2025. I talked about this a few weeks ago where there was still 60 days left in the year. Plenty of time to start making changes and things like that. I think start looking ahead. Don't wait until January 1st to make your resolutions. Think about what you want to accomplish in 2025. Start setting those goals. Make a plan now. Start setting the tone. Start working on some of those things now. There's still 3 weeks left in the year. Plenty of time to really start working on yourself and heading in that right direction and having that goal that you want to get. Start your New Year's resolutions now. It's definitely not too late. Just because the calendar says January 1st doesn't mean that's when you have to start. So start looking ahead, and remember, he who aims at nothing will hit it every time, and that comes from Zig Ziglar. But why wait until January 1st when you can start doing some things now? Even if you don't start making full-scale changes, start thinking about where you want to be. Have an idea, have a plan, create a plan. And that way you don't come to January 1st, tend to throw something up, and then all of a sudden you're failing at your New Year's resolution. So start now. Hopefully that'll help you as you go through the next couple weeks. And that is today's Tuesday motivation / positivity. All right, we're going to go a little bit out of order today. Lots going on in Eagles land, and had time to go back, look at some of the highlights of the game, rewatch some things, listen to some of the post-game interviews, and I thought I had a plan and direction for today's analysis of the Eagles, and then coming home from the orthodontist, listening to the beginning of the Brandon Graham show, some bombshells were dropped. So let's start, I guess, with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, who was the GOAT of the game? Not surprisingly, 75% of you said it was Saquon Barkley. Hard to argue, as always, with that. I probably would have gone with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. There'll be another one later in the show. All right, so I guess we'll just go to the big news. And AJ obviously was not happy. There were some clips and shots of him and Devontae on the sideline, kind of discussing things. And as I was able to go back and look at some of the game film, what game film? My DVR, but the game film, there were times that Jalen missed AJ open. However, I will say this, and from where my seats are, you have a good view of the whole field and how things develop. There were at least two times that AJ cut the play in, where if he'd have cut it out, like I said yesterday, he would have been open for a deep pass. Now, would Jalen have hit him? I don't know. Was that part of the play call? Was it frustration on AJ's part? Now that I kind of know what happened, was he frustrated knowing he's not going to do it anyway? And why run the deep route? But I guess a lot of things going on here. And if you haven't heard, Brandon Graham said essentially went and I don't know if he inadvertently did this, whether it's some bigger plan. Was saying that, hey, they were friends and one seems to be willing to talk, 11 not so much. There's definitely something going on with AJ and Jalen. I don't know, again, and I think from all the stuff I've been reading and seeing, why is Brandon Graham putting this out in the open? I guess is my biggest question. AJ was frustrated and said, when asked what can improve, he said passing. I don't have a problem with that. You have the 31st ranked passing offense in the league. You have A.J. Brown, who is arguably the best receiver in the league, getting like 2-3 targets per game. That's an issue. So whether or not it was a thinly veiled shot, I think if Brandon Graham didn't say what he said, I don't think there's an issue with that. But when Brandon said what he did, makes you kind of think, is there issues going on? Or are there issues going on between Jalen and AJ? And then for that matter, a couple weeks ago, Devontae didn't seem too happy either. So there's a lot going on. And I don't know if it's play calling, the quarterback, or what. But I'm not super concerned. I would have been less concerned, I think, if Brandon didn't say what he said. Obviously, these two need, and I had this written down before Brandon Graham's comments, but they need to get on the same page, obviously. Jalen, I think, is holding the ball too long. I think he went from taking too many risks to not taking any, and I think it's come, sure, he's not turned the ball over, but it's come at the expense of the passing game. So I guess my question is, why is BG saying that? Is it his way of trying to head things off? Did he purposely do that? Did he say something by accident that he wasn't supposed to say? Either way, we have an issue. And that leads to today's question of the day. Are the Eagles in trouble right now? I think they've come through some adversity earlier in the season. I think Nick Sirianni certainly has his work cut out for him this week. This is going to be a tough game. Would not be the least bit surprised if the Eagles lose this game and we're reminiscing and the PTSD from last year starts kicking in again. But I don't know. There's definitely something going on. But are the Eagles in trouble right now? I mean, can they right this ship? Does winning cure all? I don't know. It was just a bad game. And I know they said the feeling, I forget who I read that, but the feeling in the locker room was that it was a loss. I mean, I left the stadium feeling the same way. I was not happy. It harkens back to how I felt leaving the Cleveland game. But are they in trouble right now? 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Let me know your thoughts. Are we in trouble? Should Brandon Graham have kept all that in-house? He talked about going up, talking man-to-man. And listen, I like Brandon Graham, but I don't know if this was a calculated move on his part, something he said inadvertently, but should this have been kept in-house? I don't know. Maybe his thought process was, let's get it out in the open now to address it before it spirals like last year. So many questions. I'm sure we'll get some answers today. But are the Eagles in trouble right now? That is today's question of the day. 267-495-8531. That is the Back to the Future voice and text line. All right, some other news and notes just from my review of the game. We have a kicking problem. And I know it was windy yesterday, but I got AJ on the mind. Jake Elliott has not made a field goal over 50 yards this year. And the way he has been throughout his career, the way the NFL is today, that's an issue. So I think the two biggest questions right now are the quarterback and the kicker. which is it's kind of funny to say, but I don't know. Do we have a kicking problem? If you want to get that out on the Back to the Future voice and text line too. And the irony of all of this stuff coming out with Brandon Graham is I had this in my notes on my phone that I wanted to get to today. But just funny how for years and years, for as long as I can remember, we've been screaming about running the ball, run the football, run the damn ball. Andy, run the ball. Buddy Ryan, run the ball. Doug Peterson, run the ball. Nick Sirianni earlier this year, run the ball. And here we are, the Eagles are running the ball, and now people are complaining that we're not passing. And I do feel that there's something going on between AJ and Jalen. Something's off with Jalen right now, and I don't know what that is. But it's not like he forgot how to pass the ball. You have Saquon Barkley on a record-setting, and I've talked about this, a record-setting pace. But I just wanted to point that out, that was kind of ironic to me. The Eagles did clinch in playoff spot, fourth straight year, most since 2000 to 2004. You wouldn't know it walking out of that game, though. You wouldn't know that they clinched the playoff spot and the fact that they've won 9 in a row. And that's why the timing of this couldn't be worse, because it's going to be hard to win 10 games in a row, especially against the Steelers. But we'll see what happens. Maybe they come out and dominate the Steelers the way they did Baltimore, and everybody kind of forgets about this. They do open up as 5-point favorites. I think that line might be a bit high. I would have said that before the whole whatever you want to call it, leaked out about AJ and Jalen. But 5-point favorites as of right now. It's going to be an interesting week after going weeks with not having much to talk about during the week with the Eagles. Going to be a lot to talk about today. And then finally, the last thing, and I feel as though this was in the notes in my phone, and it's probably a little contradicting and uneven based on some of the other things, but can we stop with the, well, if we played Detroit, we'd have gotten blown out. If we played this team, guess what? We didn't play that team. Like, I think that's, I hate that just sort of mindset. Well, if we had played this team, it would have been different. Well, guess what? You play who's on your schedule. And I talked about it before the Panthers game. They always seem to play down to their opponents. So take some of that with a grain of salt. And again, this was all before all this other news broke, but it doesn't matter. We didn't play that team. If they would have played the Panthers the way they played Baltimore the week before, they'd have won by 30 points. They weren't playing Baltimore. They were playing Carolina. So I don't like that. Like, oh, well, they're going to be in trouble when they play this team. What if they don't play that team? It's just, I don't know. And I get it. That's what we do as fans. But come on, people. Be better. But we'll have more on the whole Jalen and AJ thing as the news and the story progresses. Can't wait to hear some of the press conferences today. But the question of the day, are the Eagles in trouble right now? 267-495-8531. Send me a text. Leave me a voicemail. Let me know what you're thinking about this team. All right, let's do some housekeeping. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mott on Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mott. Continue to spread the word. Lots of good things happening. Lots of good things on the horizon. So continue to spread the word. Still not too late. We're winding down our gift and food drive. The information is in the description for the GoFundMe if you want to go leave a monetary donation. If you are going to donate directly to the Maddie Ann Dixon Community Cupboard, be sure to let them know it's part of our gift and food drive. And if you want to Amazon, send stuff to my house. I have stuff coming all the time. I got donations everywhere. My wife's like, when are you making the donation? So I just got cans of soup and toilet paper and laundry detergent and canned fruit everywhere, graham crackers. So hit me up if you have any questions, but it's still not too late. And if you are participating in the reverse advent calendar, the item of the day is coffee, ground coffee, not the beans, just the stuff you put in your pot and let it brew. But ground coffee is today's advent calendar of the day. 25 days of kindness. This is an easy one that I try to do all the time. And I know it's easy to just give the star rating, but if you can, leave a positive review on Yelp or Google reviews or wherever for a small business. Give them some much needed publicity, because it's one of those things. I do it all the time. I check the reviews, and sometimes if there's not a ton of reviews, it's like, well, great, this is a 5-star rating or 4.5-star rating, but give me some details. So take a few minutes, write a review for a small business and help them out. And that's our 25 days of kindness act of the day. All right. It's still not too late. Today is the last day to do your holiday shopping at Philly Goat to guarantee it's going to get there in time for Christmas. Go check them out. They have everything you got that you need. You want to be on Team AJ? They got the Mega John shirt. I believe there's some Jalen Hurts shirts on there as well if your team hurts. Or you could be like everybody else and be Team Saquon. They have a ton of Saquon shirts. So go to phillygoat.com, check them out. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off. And just know that midnight tonight is the deadline to get your order in to guarantee delivery in time for Christmas. And then check out my boys over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Doing great things over there. That's available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Flyers look to bounce back tonight in Columbus. Not the nice little 3-game losing streak, so hopefully they can get back and play a little bit more consistently tonight. I talked yesterday about the Sixers schedule and how it could kind of set things up for them to get back on track. I think it's a scheduling quirk due to the NBA Cup, but the Sixers play Friday, Monday, and next Friday. So nice little time to get some practicing, get some work. Hopefully Joe is a full participant in those practices so they can start building some of that chemistry. He can get his conditioning down. And like I said, I mean, they're all of a sudden 4 out of 5 games, and they're only a game and a half out of the play-in spot. Only 4.5 out of the 6 seeds. So this is going to be a crucial stretch between now and the first of the year for the Sixers. And I think it's going to go a long way in letting us know where they stand. Is Joe going to be able to be somewhat consistent with his playing time? Can they get enough continuity to get that chemistry down? So even though there's only 3 games, this is a crucial 10-day stretch for the Sixers. Phillies made a move yesterday on the heels of the Mets signing Juan Soto. They signed Jordan Romano, a relief pitcher who was with Toronto, to a 1-year, $7.75 million contract. He was injured most of the year, but was good as the closer for the Blue Jays. Sort of one of those, we say it all the time, but no risk, high reward, or low risk, high reward types of signings. Anxious to see what they do the rest of the offseason here, though. But today, in honor of the Dallas Cowboys losing in embarrassing fashion yesterday, Micah Parsons walked off the field before the game was over. He was visibly upset. You gotta love it. And as bad as our locker room could be right now, at least we're not the Cowboys. But we have an Eagles-Cowboys doubleheader today. First, we're going to go back to 1989. And on this day in 1989, Bounty Bowl 2. Just 17 days after the Bounty Bowl, where Buddy Ryan was accused of putting a bounty on Luis Zendejas and Troy Aikman, the Eagles welcomed the Cowboys to the Vet. CBS dubbed it Bounty Bowl 2. They had the posters and the graphics with players' names and bounties. And as much as the NFL did not want to really promote that, if you remember Greg Williams, the whole bounty scandal with the Saints, there was a point in time where the NFL was celebrating this, and CBS certainly used it to hype up this game. The Eagles won the game 20-10. Chris Carter caught 2 touchdowns. The defense sacked Troy Aikman 1 time and forced a turnover. But the big story in this game was what happened, I guess, aside from the game. I almost said off the field, but a lot of this stuff happened on the field. And look, I talk about it a lot. I advocate and fight for Philly fans. I think we get a bad reputation. I think some of the stuff that goes on in LA and San Francisco, Oakland, and all of the violence. You have guys getting stabbed at Dodgers-Giants games. But it's Philly fans because we booed Santa Claus one time back in 1968. We're the evil ones. So I tend to advocate and stick up for fans as much as possible. But on this day in 1989, it was certainly not our finest moment. Snowballs, ice balls, beer bottles, you name it, it was thrown onto the field. Nobody was safe. Referees, players for both teams, Jimmy Johnson, Philly cops, even the broadcasters, Vern Lundquist and Terry Bradshaw were dodging snowballs on this day. This is the infamous time where Ed Rendell said he bet one of the guys sitting next to him that he couldn't get a snowball onto the field. Ed lost that bet. And, I mean, we even hit Jerome Brown with a snowball as he was trying to calm the fans down from throwing snowballs. So, again, not our finest moments. I'm not saying that some of the things people say about Philly fans aren't justified. I'm just saying that this time it was sort of one of those things like, we can be better than that. But it did force the Eagles to beef up security for their final home game against the Cardinals, as well as the playoff game against the Rams. There were no beer sales. And could you imagine going to an Eagles game with no beer sales today? Like, people would riot. But no beer sales during the game for that Arizona game, or I guess they were Phoenix at the time, the Phoenix Cardinals, and the playoff game against the Rams. Maybe that's why they lost to the Rams in the playoff that year. But on this day in 1989, it was Bounty Bowl 2 at the Vet. Eagles beat the Cowboys 20-10. Fans lost their minds, hit everybody within sight with a snowball. I'm sure there was stuff thrown at each other, but refs, players, announcers, coaches, you name it, they were fair game. And then fast forward 6 years, we're going to go back to 1995. And on this day in 1995, the Eagles welcomed the Cowboys to the Vet. This time it was the Eagles coming out on top 20-17. Ricky Watters ran for 112 yards and a touchdown, but this is known simply better as 4th and 1. In the fourth quarter, the Cowboys decided in a tie game to go for it on 4th and 1 from their own 29-yard line. Hand it off to Emmitt Smith. The Eagles stop him, but wait, the refs blew the whistle. The 2-minute warning happened, and everybody in the stadium, Merrill Reese, Stan Walters, Pat Summerall, John Madden, who were announcing, everybody thought, okay, this is where Barry Switzer is going to just kick the ball. Come back from the 2-minute warning, line up to go for it again. You run the same play, same result, and the Eagles end up, Gary Anderson kicks a 42-yard field goal for the win. It was a big game. Troy Aikman was furious at the end of the game, but Merrill Reese with one of my all-time favorite calls, and I apologize for the poor impersonation, but they snap the ball. They give it to Smith, and they stop him again. They stop him again. And this time they can't take it away. It's Groundhog's Day. They stop him again. That was horrible, but one of my all-time favorite Merrill Reese calls. But 4th and 1 happened on this day in 1995, 6 years after Bounty Bowl 2 happened on this day back in 1989. And then finally today, our forgotten team in Philly sports history. We touched on these guys a little bit before earlier this year, but the Hilldale Daisies, a Negro League team from Darby, PA. They played from 1910 to 1932, and they were one of the best Negro League teams. They won 3 Eastern Colored League championships. They won the Negro World Series in 1925. 6 Hall of Famers on their team throughout their history, including Pop Lloyd, Judy Johnson, and Biz Mackey. There is a PA historical marker on McDade Boulevard and Cedar Avenue in Yeadon. They were featured a lot with, if you remember, I interviewed Brian Michael, the League Apart display that was over at Camden Community College in Cherry Hill. But the Hilldale Daisies, one of the best Negro League teams to play from Darby, PA, are today's forgotten Philly sports team. On this day in 1989, it was Bounty Bowl 2, and in 1995, it was 4th and 1. Eagles winning both times, defeating the Cowboys, all in honor of the Cowboys losing to the Bengals last night. We'll have more on the Phillies offseason, more on the Sixers. We'll recap the Flyers game, but the big story is and will be the entire week, Jalen versus AJ, and just what the heck is going on over there. Did BG make a mistake? Was it a calculated move for him? I don't know. I trust BG, but man, maybe you should have stopped talking instead of continue going on. But hey, maybe it'll work out. We'll see what happens. What they did last year didn't work, so maybe bringing it out in the open is the way to go. We'll see. But be sure to hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line and let me know, are the Eagles in trouble right now? As they are 5-point favorites. Like, that just seems like a big line for me. I don't know. Like I said, we got some time on this before we get into the keys to the game and everything, but that just seems like a big line for me. Be sure to donate to our gift and food drive. Ground coffee is the item of the day. Should you have any questions, let me know. But it is Tuesday, so remember, he who aims at nothing will hit it every time. Why not start making your goals for 2025 now? Get a head start on it. That way you're in a better position to guarantee yourself some success. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for December 10th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Tuesday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.